It's my great pleasure to be talking to Ben Austin, young Ben Austin, who grew up here in Portugal. And thanks first and foremost, Ben, for being with us here today on the Resident Podcast.
Yeah, no problem. You caught me at a day where I had some free time, so more than happy to be here.
I realise how lucky I am to be able to speak to a busy young person. And that's a really important angle for our discussion today, what it's like to grow up here in Portugal, which you did. And I've got to say, you bring down the average age of the hosts on this podcast by a few decades.
Only a couple.
Often the people we speak to, we speak to them because they've had incredible experiences and built incredible things, literally, here in Portugal. And we're talking to them later on in their lives when they can reflect on that experience. You've got a couple of decades of experience, all in Portugal, but at the beginning of your life. So you came from the UK, right, to come and live here in Portugal when your parents moved over here?
Originally, I moved here about the tender age of 4 or 5, I believe. My parents decided they had it. Sorry?
I did. Yeah, did you? I mean, that's amazing to come at that age.
Yeah, well, it didn't come on by myself, of course. My parents kind of dragged me along here from the UK.
Like Paddington Bear, please look after this boy. You came. Let's point that out right from the get-go. He came with his parents. They brought him here. He wasn't just dumped in Portugal.
Exactly.
Sadly, we have seen in the news just recently, that was a very grim situation with those French children who were dumped in Portugal. But no, Ben of British parentage and brought here at the age of 4. And you're in your early 20s now. That's the time span we're talking about, right?
Yes, I'm in my early 20s at the moment. It was kind of, it's a funny story how we ended up in Portugal. Originally, my parents came here with the idea of doing a bit of a tour de Europe. They sold their house in the UK. They had a bit of money to spend. And the idea was they wanted to start in Portugal and work all our way up to Greece and then see which country they resonate best with to stay in and make a life in. And our car broke down, oddly enough, where you are, Carl, in San Martino de Porto, of all places.
What does this place do to cars? That's what happened to my car as well.
It's the sea. I think it's the sea atmosphere. It must corrode something.
Well, I didn't know that. So that happened to you as well. Your parents' vehicle broke down here. So you were kind of stuck in San Martino de Porto on the Silver Coast of Portugal.
Exactly. And they fell in love with the place. Yeah. And so we decided, right, I guess that's us. That's where we're beginning our lives in Europe.
Wow. Sorry, Greece. Sorry, Spain. That was it. Portugal was going to be made home at that point.
That was the moment the decision was made.
How wonderful. How wonderful. Do you have any really early memories of being in Portugal as a kid?
I've got a few. A lot of being on the beach. A lot of eating sand and then finding out I don't like it.
You're a quick learner as well, obviously. Okay, good. And it's the sand behind me, actually. This is where I live in San Martino de Porto that Ben is talking about, and he's eating that kind of sand right behind me. Any other memories, Ben? Seawater doesn't taste very nice either.
It's very nice. I was I learned through taste. Let's put it that way.
Yes, very good. An experiential learner. I get it. Yes.
There's plenty of happy memories here. It was always a very peaceful country, and especially when I compare to, I've got a lot of friends in the UK. I've always have done. I've traveled back fairly regularly. I'm usually there at least once a year, twice a year to go either see friends, family, what have you. And I had it's fair to say, especially my early sort of formative years, I had a very dramatically different upbringing from them.
Yes, of course.
Whereas concerns of safety of like going out or leaving your children out of sight here in Portugal is a lot more relaxed compared to the UK, for instance.
Yeah.
A lot more sun, and with that just comes a lot more time playing outside as well. A lot more things to eat and sample.
Bugs and trees and stuff like that. Excellent. So you're fair to say then a pretty idyllic and pleasant childhood in those early years.
Yeah, and I think along with that as well comes a bit more of social confidence.
Okay.
You're not as afraid, your formative years of a child, of course, are very important. Any parent would know that. I can't speak as a parent, of course, yet, at least. Who knows what the future holds, but having that, I do believe that having that more sort of open childhood experience and that social setting where there's a lot less, I don't want to say safety concerns, but I want to say you're a bit freer to walk about and to speak to people. It's a lot more relaxing. Instills a sense of confidence talking to people.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, and the reception of the Portuguese people who you bump into and speak to, because this culture just loves children and family life, of course. I'm wondering as well in those early years what it was like to go as a British kid being brought up by British parents to a Portuguese school. So was that that must have been quite a change from eating sand on the beach to going into the rigor and routine of school life. What was that like? What are your memories of that?
It was a bit shock and awe for me, to be completely honest. I was kind of thrown into the deep end, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where all my earliest memory of school was just being abandoned at the school gate by my mother, and suddenly I'm in a place where I don't speak the language, I can't understand anyone.
Yeah.
So naturally, I think, as anyone would do in those circumstances, I sat on the ground and cried.
Oh, I'm feeling that. I mean, I had a similar experience in the UK. At least you had sunshine to cry in.
Yeah, exactly. At least it wasn't raining, so I wasn't wet.
Apart from your own tears, right? Which we're making light of here. We know, when you're 5, maybe even young, you might have been 4 or 5. That's very difficult, isn't it? And the added language barrier. But I'm guessing as a young child, you soon made sense of that, and it was like sink or swim linguistically, presumably.
It is. You can. I mean, we say sink or swim, but you can't sink under those circumstances. If that makes any sense, the only way you can communicate with people is through trying.
Yeah.
And you will. You're at such a tender age where you absorb everything, so to speak. You quickly learn, like, oh, that means crayon. Lapis means pencil. You hear people say things. You can't help but learn.
Great. Yeah, which is not the same, is it, for the foreigner that comes and lives in a somewhat more remote setting? They're not forced to learn the language in a way that you were as a child. But I mean, in the end, that did you a lot of good. I'm thinking.
Oh, definitely. I speak Portuguese fluently.
Yeah.
When I tell people I'm English, they're more often than not surprised if they've only heard me speak Portuguese up to that point. It's been the case on multiple occasions where we've been on, sort of nights out as a group, or we're out at a cafe somewhere, and I'll go talk to some English people, and people look at me almost with this sense of shock of like, how do you speak English that well?
Yeah.
Oh, I am English.
Yes.
And
a bit of German and a bit of Italian as well. I mean, I think maybe that early start of flexing your mind in that way, taking in another language, has helped you with others. Perhaps you speak German and Italian as far as I recall as well.
Yeah, my German isn't as good as it used to be, admittedly. Right. That is something I've been faulting on, mainly through lack of practice. But Italian, for some reason, it's one of those languages that I learned and it just stayed cemented in me.
Yeah, very good. And that might be something to do with Erasmus, and the one of the great gifts of a Portuguese education is the ability to move around Europe, which is not so much the case, although it's coming back, I think, for the UK. But before we go there, and you very interestingly said, who knows what the future holds? Because let's face it, this is a challenging time for young people in Portugal. You could say it always has been, bright, gifted, adventurous, young Portuguese people. Often the first thing they think of, the cultural expectation, is to move abroad, isn't it? And go and seek work experience elsewhere. Before we go there, because I know that's very present and real for you, any more about the childhood, about growing up, for people who are thinking of bringing their kids to Portugal? What would you say to them?
What would I say? That's a really good question, Carl. And to be completely honest with you, it's going to be, well, of course, it's going to be different for every child, but something that generally I find is useful is just don't be afraid of throwing your kid into the deep end of linguistics, of going into Portuguese houses, having Portuguese friends, letting them play in parks. It's contact with the language and contact with the culture that ultimately will develop an environment where you can learn.
Yes. Yeah. Well said. And of course, that welcoming culture anyway helps with that, doesn't it? They're not likely to get shunned. It's a very welcoming culture, I think, from the youngest to the oldest ages, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I can't recall a time, maybe perhaps in my perhaps only in my later years, because I've always spoken Portuguese with the Portuguese accent and with the Portuguese intonation. So it's very easy for people to forget that I am British. And when I do mess up from time to time, people do tend to take the mick because they forget that I'm British. But I guess that's just all part of the course.
I think together the Portuguese and British senses of humor are a fantastic combination. Interestingly, you say I am British. Is that how you see yourself? You see yourself as British, raised in Portugal, or part British, part Portuguese? How do you describe yourself?
That's a very good question. I've always gone by what's on my passport. My passport's British. I'm still got my residency card, quite frankly, because I'm too lazy to go through the whole song and dance of getting citizenship. I'm more than eligible for it, but I can
Yeah,
get
you've been here. You've been here more than the 10 years that people are now complaining about, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And fortunately, I should say. And to be honest with you, I'm just too lazy to go through the whole song
That's
and dance of getting
fascinating.
citizenship.
That is a fascinating option or lack of action there, but very interesting nonetheless. So yeah, I think we can say it was pretty much. I mean, barring all the challenges that people have as children and the ups and downs of childhood, not the worst of places to grow up here in Portugal. And your parents did you a right old favour. By the sound of it, and the car did as well, breaking down here in Portugal, not allowing you to go any further. You could have been part Greek or part Spanish by
Could
now.
have ended up in Albania.
Yes, life just didn't have that in mind for you. Here you are working your way through Portuguese junior school, senior school, all in the same town, the same location.
No, it varied a little bit. I did most of my education where you are in San Martin do Porto in the public system. And that comes with its benefits, that comes with its drawbacks, like anything, like any choice does, really. I also did my college a bit close to where I am now, near Coimbra. For those who don't know, I'm located in a small town called Alviazra. It's kind of, the best way I can describe it is if you imagine Pombal, Tomar, Coimbra, we're kind of smack bang in the middle.
Good way of locating you. Yes, an amazing. I've been over that way. It's a really wonderful part of the country. Actually, yeah, let's dwell on that contrast for a moment. San Martino de Porto is a seaside town. Mainly, it has to be said for the Portuguese, right? It's not globally known to any great extent as it might be with its fabulous, assets and beauty. And that's where you grew up, in a kind of touristy place. And what's the contrast like with what I call authentic, real, central Portugal? What's that been like for you?
It's a very dramatic change, that's for sure. Going from a tourist town where, admittedly, you have more amenities available to you there on the coast as well. For instance, Caldas is 10 minutes away, and you've got everything and more you could need in Caldas de Rainha.
Yes.
For us, we're about half an hour away from the nearest big city where you can get everything. So the travel time itself, you're more dependent on having a car.
Yeah.
And things. The bus infrastructure and the public transport infrastructure here is a bit weaker as well. It's still very good, admittedly. If I can get to Tomar twice a day, I can get to Coimbra 4 times, with 4 buses each day.
Oh, that's good.
And from Coimbra or Tomar, I can get almost anywhere.
Right. Okay. That's
in the country. So.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know. So you're not entirely cut off, but it is a different pace of life, for sure. So college over in Central, and that would bring you into the world of work ultimately, which is where you've just found yourself. I mean, that's fair to say, isn't it? You are really going into the world of work, having completed your further education as we speak, almost.
Yeah, it's been hard to believe it was only 3 years ago that I finished.
Yeah, incredible. And this is that moment that I was mentioning earlier on. At this point, a lot of young Portuguese people, and let's call you that for the sake of my next question. Growing up, educated in Portugal, your horizon is the world, isn't it? It's not necessarily to go and work in Lisbon or Coimbra and get some big city action. It's like big world action that a lot of young Portuguese kids are looking at right after education.
I'd say so, yeah, and that's only reinforced with the mobility that an EU passport or cartão cidadão gives you as well. The world's your oyster at that point.
Yes.
And it's a very common narrative to hear that people want to go abroad and they want to work justifiably, so that the wages here aren't exactly great for starting positions, for internships. It's not exactly what you call a livable wage. We are, it's easy to forget in all its beauty and all of its all the benefits you get here in Portugal that it is a country where the median wage is about 1,200.
Yes. Yeah, right. And the property prices, rental prices have been going up as well in the background there. So it's no wonder young Portuguese people have always and still continue to think about moving abroad to improve their chances. And, like you're saying, who knows what the future holds? If they want to have a family, they want to have kids. Sadly, realistically, pragmatically, that's not the easiest thing to bring about, is it anymore here in Portugal, modern day Portugal?
I'm not entirely sure about that. In all fairness, like you mentioned, I'm still in my early 20s, and my social circles, we're not at that age where we're talking about raising families exactly at the moment. Our next big step so to speak, is what jobs are we doing, what promotions are in line for us, what the trajectory of our careers are. I feel like the conversation regarding families is something that generally happens later in life. But I understand what you're saying. Yeah, there are a significant number of challenges in the way, particularly where cost of living is concerned for raising a family.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so that's not a concern for a few more years yet. And interestingly, it looks like for the time being, although you have, I mean, it's quite a tender age, without wanting to sound patronizing, you have traveled pretty well, but you have chosen not to leave Portugal for the time being, seeing some sort of opportunity here. Before we get into that and what you've chosen as a way of staying here, and I think, some of the foreigners will be glad to hear that, or who are settling here, is like, oh, that's good. A youngster not having to leave this lifestyle that we love so much. That there's a kind of bitter irony in that, isn't there, in having to do that? But where have you been? What has your education afforded you in terms of Erasmus visits? And the brilliant way Portuguese educations often include a visit or two to another country.
Yeah, in college, I ended up being top of my class, and that granted me an internship in Germany. Well, I got to choose where in Europe I wanted to go. I chose Germany because I've kind of always been fascinated with the country. I'm a big history nerd, and I love the Holy Roman Empire, and I love learning about the Reformation, the 30 Years' War. They're kind of my fixation, almost, what I love to talk about.
Yes.
So Germany was definitely on the top of my list. I was lucky enough to manage a position in Berlin.
And did you enjoy it?
Oh, 100%. I love Berlin. It's a fantastic city. It's mind-blowing how, for someone like me who already came from at the time, didn't have a driver's license. And I came from a place where I'm very dependent on public transport, and credits to Portuguese public transport where it's due. It's very good and very affordable. But it completely blew my mind that within 15 minutes, I could be on the other side of a massive city. The S-Bahn and U-Bahn networks are incredible.
Okay, so clearly fond memories of Berlin then. This sounds like you really like Berlin. The Italian that you've learned, was that in Italy as well? Or have you learned that?
That was in Italy. That wasn't necessarily due to my education.
Right.
Okay. I kind of I got an Italian girlfriend about the age of 16.
That works too.
And I was working part-time jobs outside of school as well to kind of save up some cash. I managed to save up enough to spend a few months in Italy to be with her on a very, very romantic adventure.
How fantastic. And do you think that's something to do with the Portuguese upbringing? I mean, 16, you say, so you were traveling at a very young age. Is that something to do with the confidence that Portuguese kids grow up with, and that sort of practicality and resourcefulness?
I think it has to do with the confidence of being sort of thrown into the deep end of something at a young age, if that makes any sense. If you're, I come from a very privileged position, being an expat kid, being from a family that speaks English, but forced to adapt to an environment that speaks Portuguese. And having to do that is already a big challenge to overcome at a young age, and one that it's very difficult to fail at, if I can put it that way.
Wow. It's wonderful how grateful you are for this opportunity, because, it's the water you've swum in. It's not like you had the choice. This is what you were flung into, and clearly you've made the most of it. And you have these German, Italian, and other adventures, presumably, as well. And now, you could go anywhere. I'm thinking with your resourcefulness and your experience, all sorts of great opportunities lie ahead of you. Am I right in thinking that you do love the lifestyle and culture of Portugal, and you're staying here because you like that, and you'd like to make a go of having a working life here instead of leaving the country?
50-50, if I'm being honest, Carl. Do I love the lifestyle here in Portugal and what it allows me? Do I love the weather, the openness of the people, the fact that I can go speak to anyone, sit down next to anyone, speak to anyone? Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
that is awesome, and that's something that's very rare to find across other cultures. One of the reasons I am still here in Portugal, though, is because I've been very lucky career-wise. Like we mentioned, I work in real estate, and it's my honest belief that if I wasn't working in the industry that I'm in, and I wasn't allowed the network and the opportunities that I've had, that I would be one of those young people in Germany, France, Italy, wherever it may be across Europe, working some other job.
Yeah. Okay. So real estate is clearly an opportunity. Again, sort of somewhat ironic, isn't it? The property prices are going up, rental prices are going up. You're perhaps part of that. which is like almost like a bet against your future. But hopefully the tide will rise for everyone ultimately when it comes to real estate in Portugal. How has that been for you? What is it like being a young person going into the real estate agency? How are you seeing that? And how real estate does get all kinds of accusations, as well as clearly like tourism being a good thing sometimes for some people.
Well, any industry is a two-sided coin, really.
Yeah.
And I think real estate's kind of having its time in the spotlight at the moment, where it's under the microscope, where we're looking at the good side, the bad side. Naturally, with any industry, you're going to get a good side and a bad side.
Yes.
Socially, amongst my friends, I am kind of the butt of the joke on occasion when it comes to real estate. It's something I wear almost with a bit of pride, to be quite honest. I'm very lucky. I believe I'm very lucky to work in the industry that I do, and I've been allowed several connections, and I've been very lucky, to summarize it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, good for you. And I'm not at all surprised. All of that is happening. The controversy, if you like, about the effect of real estate and this incredible notoriety that Portugal is enjoying is happening in a bigger political, geopolitical, economic context of a very rapidly changing world. Now, of course, these are the only early 20s you've had and are likely to have, right? We're all born in the time we're born into. So this is in many ways is just normal for you, where compared to me, I've seen a few different decades and can compare and contrast them. Do you get a sense, when you hear all this sort of hyperbole about AI and the bubbling of war in the distance and so on, do you get a sense that you're living in quite an inflamed and difficult time? Or do you just take it in your stride as a young person setting about your life?
Well, you can only take it in your stride, to be honest with you. It's so easy to get bogged down, and it's easy to get almost depressed looking at news nowadays.
Yes.
Every other day there's a new war that's broken out, or the Strait of Hormuz is tied up and we can't get enough oil. The price of a barrel's gone to $200. It's so easy to get bogged down, and it's really easy to become someone just vain and bitter. So all you can do is...
That's a good description of some people at the moment. Yes. Okay, carry on.
So all you can do really is try to keep your chin up and carry on.
You're so British. Is that a British or a Portuguese sentiment? It's probably both, isn't it?
I'd say more British personally.
Okay, fair enough.
I do think it is a bit of a British thing. We kind of have that stiff upper lip, and we kind of just try to shrug things off
and keep calm and carry on as you clearly are doing. Anything specific to say about AI? I think you're in an interesting generation that has been computerized, but not turbocharged by AI in terms of your education. Clearly, the real estate industry is going to feel the pressure of AI. What's your view as somebody in your early 20s about the hype about AI?
It's a divisive topic, to say the least. It's Marmite. People love it or they hate it.
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion that it's a tool, much like a hammer or a spanner or whatever. It's something out there for you to use.
Yes.
And something out there for you to learn how to use. Of course, there's, you hear a lot about nowadays in my sort of age group and my sort of circles, and one of the biggest concerns is how much space data centers take up, for instance, and the environmental hazards those cause. And that's another necessary talking point. But again, these to me strike me as things that you can circumnavigate these topics. You can circumnavigate the issue of data centers. Admittedly, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a technical expert, but I'm sure there's a way around it.
Yes. Yeah. So you're optimistic and aware of how powerful it might be. That's coming towards us.
It's a tool, and it's the next industrial revolution, whether we like it or not. This is the steam engine being invented.
Yeah. Well, I was looking for a little bit of clarification on that, because you could be looking at a hammer or a screwdriver. It's just a tool and lying innocuously on the sideboard or in your toolkit. But we're talking. There's a scale to this as well, isn't there? What's your sense of that, and how much it will change life for people?
How much will it change life? God, that's another very good question.
I guess I should be asked a sociologist or a political or technological scientist, but I'm particularly interested, from your angle, from your age group demographic, if you like.
There's a lot of negatives in my kind of demographic, in my age group. AI is largely viewed as a negative thing.
Is it?
Pretty honest, yeah. There's tons of environmental concerns as well. There's tons of concerns with issues of copyright laws, with AI stealing people's art and replicating it, and then claiming it's its own thing. There's tons of issues with people's body autonomy as well. There are websites where you can go generate. Sorry.
A body, I see, as in being copied by it, and people not knowing who they are anymore, or other people not knowing who they are. Right? Okay.
Kind of. There's been issues as well with certain platforms where you can get a picture, for instance, of you or me, and then ask AI to generate a picture of this person naked.
Yes.
And you can imagine all the problems that would cause.
Yes. Not that I can imagine anyone would want that of me, but I guess it takes all sorts, does it not, in this crazy world of ours? Yeah, no, but I take the point. On a serious note, yeah, that is pretty grim. I think that's being attended to in some way, but also on the other hand, this does seem like a bit of an unstoppable beast, genie out the bottle, that we have to bring a lot of our own governance and common sense to. Although that those are not the most. There's not a great volume of that in the world. Let me put it that way in terms of common sense.
Needless to say, it needs more regulation. That's for sure, and it needs.
That's what younger people are saying, is it? That's what your 20-year-olds, Gen. How do you see it? Gen Y, Gen Z, what millennial? What's millennial, presumably?
I'm not quite sure, to be quite frank with you, Carl. I've never really associated myself with that grouping mechanism.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I can understand that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that definitely needs more regulation. And perhaps, an age restriction on who can access certain AI platforms wouldn't be the worst thing as well.
Yes.
But that brings up a whole other series of topics, particularly logistically. How do we handle that?
Yes.
It comes with a lot of good sides. For instance, the efficiency side of things. I can use AI to help me do my taxes. I can use AI to help me work out Excel sheets. I can use AI for a whole number of good things, beneficial things. But there's a whole other side of that coin as well that needs regulating.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. So in the last few minutes then, Ben, and thank you, I really appreciate you being here for the Resident podcast. Get the headlines, everybody, at the Resident, the PortugalResident.com. And Ben, Portugal for the future. You spent your childhood, your formative years, your higher further education years here. You're going into work in Portugal at this time. How do you see it in the next 5 or 10 years, or is it too hard to call?
5 or 10 years, God. I'd say politically, not just in Portugal, but across Europe, across the world at the moment, it almost seems we're a bit of a volatile time. Yeah. As well. But when you compare the way politics is talked about here in Portugal, and when you compare it to a country like the UK, I'd get the feeling that we're in a much more sensible place, and where people have their heads screwed on the right way.
Yes.
So to speak.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'm a bit more concerned for the UK's future than I am for Portugal's in that regard.
Okay,
I'm generally quite optimistic because I think it's overall I think it's a country that has very sensible people that like to look at all the facts, people that are quite rational, and where open conversations encouraged regarding most topics.
Yeah. Very good, very good. So you broadly then optimistic, I think, for the future of and in Portugal?
I'd say so. Yeah, I'm quite optimistic about things. Of course, we're not without challenges, but these are all things that we have to overcome. And if there is any country that can overcome them, I think Portugal is it. We're very, people are very sensible here.
Yes, and I notice, I'm getting the sense that you haven't completely built a wall or closed the door. If great offers do come from the rest of the world, you're open to them. There's some traveling you want to do. Where does somebody who grows up in Portugal want to go ideally, or you specifically? Where would you love to visit in the world?
I don't really think I fit in the demographic of where people usually want to travel to. A lot of people want to go to
Dubai.
Dubai, Ibiza, for instance, which I wouldn't say no to if I got the opportunity to, of course.
Right, fair enough.
But I'm a big history nerd, and I like to go to places like I'd love to go to Wittenberg, for instance, just to see what it's like, or Prague, because I'm obsessed with the defenestration of Prague.
That's not something you hear very often, is it?
No, it's really. I'm a big history nerd.
Wow, I had no idea. That's great. And Portugal's a great place to grow up. Of course,
fantastic.
Great Britain is as well. But that must have been a wonderful and interesting part of your Portuguese education, because culturally, historically, Portugal's a very proud country in that sense of teaching, bringing the children up with a great knowledge of their history. I'm guessing that's what happened to you as well, having your schooling here.
Definitely, and I think you can't. There's so many touristic places almost. Like we think of Óbidos and we think of well, anywhere really in Portugal where there's so many significant historical landmarks. The palace in Sesimbra, not Sesimbra, whatever it's called.
Oh, Sintra.
Thank you. That's the one.
Yeah.
That you can't help but visit them either on school trips or just with family, whatever, and you can't help but learn there's so many interesting things, and there's so many sunny days to go out and enjoy these things. You can't help but get a cultural upbringing.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed that myself as well, in a way that I had no idea what was going to happen coming here, and that sort of richness. Ben, thank you so much. You might see Ben, by the way, certainly in the real estate industry, but he mentioned Óbidos there, or Óbidos, I think as the locals call it, at a reenactment. That's a little known fact about you as well, is that you do dress up in medieval costumes or Napoleonic time costumes here in Portugal?
It's medieval armor. We do, I do sort of live, I'm part of a group called Armis Nostrum, where we play with swords, to put it simply. We dress up in armor, we play with swords. We follow, when you think of martial arts, you often think of the Far East and, jiu-jitsu and what have you, Aikido. But Europe has we have HEMA, we have a lot of martial arts here as well. A lot of them involving weapons and a lot of them involving swords and whatnot.
And pain.
So yeah, in pain. We study, we study these old books like a bunch of nerds and try to recreate what these martial arts could look like. And we go around the country doing live demonstrations. There's competitions as well. It's all non-choreographed too, which on occasion has led to a couple of accidents, which I'm quite proud of, to be honest. I shouldn't be.
Your poor mother. Right. And I was going to say, you might see Ben at one of these, but you probably won't, because he'll have armor on and he'll see you, but you won't see him, which is how it's meant to work, I think, when you're wearing armor.
Exactly.
Ben, great to chat with you. All the best to you in your future in real estate, in life, and here in Portugal. It's been so interesting talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carl. Thank you for having me on the show today.